So hello and welcome back, guys, to another Improvement Season podcast. You may have missed us for the last 2 weeks, but there was a lot going on, especially on Steve's end, not so much on my end. It was more like on Steve's end. And this is definitely something that we are going to talk about. I haven't told Steve yet, but when he came on, he sounds still tired from maybe being jet lagged, maybe the entire trip and all that kind of stuff. So Steve, how are you?
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't really spoken today. And then when I came to speak to you, I was like, oh, my voice sounds like I've got a cold or something. So, oh, that's interesting. So, yeah, I must be tired. And actually, visually, I can see in my face, I look tired. And I know I'm tired because I also feel tired. And I just had a Monster and a coffee. For all those people that are always outraged by my caffeine intake if it goes above like 200 milligrams. Yeah, it's gone above 200 milligrams today. But I always find it funny when people are like, oh, that's so much caffeine. Anyway.
Are these the people, though, who are then still drinking alcohol, not taking care of their nutrition and all that kind of stuff?
I reckon they are extreme biohackers who are sat at their desk with their sad light in the morning, which I used to do. I do still do my blue light blockers, or they could be, like you said, the people who haven't got other variables in their life necessarily in order that maybe are more important. But anyway, during the trip, I was on plenty of caffeine. Me and Mike were on plenty of caffeine each day because, dude, complete tangent. Well, it's somewhat of a tangent, I guess. Ghost, you know Ghost, don't you? The kind of supplement sponsor. No, the supplement company. They do energy drinks. Like Monsters here, Ghost, whoop. It's the best.
Oh, really?
The unfortunate thing is, the first can of Ghost I had was the best of the entire trip, and I didn't find it ever again.
What kind of flavor was it?
Sour Heads. I don't know if you know the like sweet Sour Heads.
Yeah.
It was apple Sour Heads flavor, and it was just
all right. Yeah.
I like sipped it as we were going for our first training session after like the day after the show, and I was like, "Oh my god, Mike, you got to try this." Gave it to Mike.
Can you somewhat compare it to the green Monster? Because it has kind of a similar taste when it comes to the apple flavor.
I would say in general, the Ghost cans are just like a bit more sharp in flavor. So they got a bit more punch. And then this had a very like sour note to it. So if you like quite a sweet, like sour kick, like a sour sweet type of thing, yeah, you'd love it. But it was just, I never rated the apple Monster particularly high, but this is just like, ooh, really kicked it up a notch. They also do a watermelon flavor, which was pretty good, but not as good as this apple one. And I was just like, that was pretty legendary. I don't know what led me to say that, but just wanted to talk about that one briefly. Give a shout out.
It's not that we're not talking about Monster or caffeinated beverages frequently here on the podcast. So I think it's well warranted to bring that up. And I wonder why that isn't here in Europe so far. Maybe some EU regulations that they are not allowed to be produced here or sold here, because I know it's kind of a similar thing when it comes to different cereal variations. That
I
Fruit
think it's
Loops,
probably,
for example, isn't the way that Fruit Loops was in the past.
Yeah, I think Ghost is an American company, so I think it's mostly that it hasn't grown in Europe to the size of what it is in the US just yet, because there's even flavors of like their whey, that they have Oreo flavor, Nutter Butter flavor. I'm naming those two because we went to a GNC and bought them to have for the trip. They also had an offer on, so it made it like, you know, when you're on, I don't know if you're like me with money on holiday, Pascal, because it's in another currency and I'm like, I'm on holiday, it's an experience. I just end up just being like, yeah, I'll buy a coffee, I'll buy like this Ghost that costs like $6 or something stupid. Like, you know, I spend a little bit excessively to what I would at home. But anyway, ended up buying, the Nutter Butter flavor and Oreo flavor. But they seem to just have more choice, whereas in the UK on the website or the European website, there's just less choice available. So I think they're just not as expanded here yet. You might be able to find Ghost, the energy drink, in like some niche, like, I don't know, corner shops and stuff like that or whatever.
Which is then super expensive because they are selling it at a premium.
Importing it. Yeah.
And most of the time it's not worth it then.
If you can find it, the Sour Heads apple, I would say, is worth just trying. So much so I sent it to Charlotte as I was like, if you want to get me a Christmas present that's like just a little obscure thing, I found a website sold like a can for like $4.99. I was like, just having a can of that, I was like, treat it as like
so
a
it was
special.
that good that you're even considering getting it via some kind of import-export website?
As a Christmas present, yes. As me buying it as an individual, I'm too, what would be the saying? Frugal for that, I think.
Yeah.
I would just stick with my monsters.
Yeah. No, that I would definitely try it whenever I see it, but I don't really think that it's going to happen in the near distant future, unfortunately.
I'd be interested to know if any listeners have had it or what their favorite ghost flavor is, because I was impressed by their selection. But yes, as you said, I am tired. I was good about managing jet lag on the way out with I use a time shifter app. Which was really good. Actually, I had a free trial for like your first trip, so I managed to just use it for that, and I don't have to like pay an annual subscription or something because I'm not exactly traveling that much. Although this year was quite full of travel compared to many years, but so I managed to transition that way. But on the way back, it was giving me all these notifications to be like, "Oh, take your melatonin now," and it was like 7:30 in the evening, and me and Mike hadn't even had dinner yet, and we're still out walking around New York. I was like, I mean, I'm not going to do any of the transitions on the way back. Yeah. But I slept 11 hours, not last night, but the night before. And last night was a more normal night's sleep. It was like 8.5 hours or something. But my sleep is still disrupted. I'm waking up multiple times in the night and feeling quite wakeful. So yeah, it's going to take a little bit of more time to get over the jet lag, and then it's like, is it jet lag, is it fatigue from prep? Like it's hard to know exactly which one it is precisely, but I think mostly it's jet lag, and it'll take a few days to recover it, and hopefully my voice will sound a bit more normal. Absolutely. And my face will look less like I'm tired.
Do you want to give us, so i.e. myself and the listener, a little bit of a rundown of how things went, what the entire procedure looked like? So you can start, of course, in just talking about the trip to the US, and then go through it in a chronological order or anything alike, if you want to, that is.
I'll do my best, because it's been quite a lot of time since we've spoken, of course, but we didn't record the week leading into Worlds because I was on my final kind of depletion, and it was just a busy time because I was having to manage getting all my client check-ins done in a shorter time window, and also just making sure I didn't forget anything and planning everything for the travel. And doing a peak week whilst traveling that distance can be quite stressful. I mean, it was quite stressful in managing all of that just because of the number of variables involved. You don't want to forget anything. Also, things like travel restrictions are in place. So it was only like last minute I started considering, the US are not fond of you bringing in food. And little did I realize you just should lie, basically, when you're going through customs. Don't tell them that you're bringing anything through, because they just basically take you at your word, as I discovered as I went through it. But me being the person I am, I said, yes, I have like beef. And they were like, beef. They're not keen on you taking through beef. So I had like my beef taken away. Actually,
I can see that though.
Yeah, I only had actually half of it taken away, because they were like, is that all you have? And as we're going through it, I was realizing this process is they take you at your word. So I was like, yeah, I just have this one bag of beef, and I had another bag of beef that I took through. Don't arrest me, guys. And that they were fine with my chicken being taken through and my vegetables, so long as they were cooked. I forgot that I had uncooked spinach with me, but because I forgot and I didn't tell them, they're fine with, they didn't check my bag or anything. So they just take you at your word. So anyway, there's just lots of little things like that. And water loading is very stressful, actually. When I think about it in hindsight, for each peak week, that's one of the most stressful variables, is the constant need to pee whilst also force drinking. It just 2.5 gallons plus. When you're not just sat at home, it becomes quite stressful when you're traveling to have to try and find bathrooms and stuff.
I can see that.
I think I'm actually still holding on to like some lagging Like I find when I need to pee now, I've got like a sense of urgency every time I feel it. I'm like, I have to go immediately. So much so when we're in New York, Mike will tell you I was peeing just like, and like finding a corner to go pee because I was like, I gotta pee. And
so annoying.
Yeah. Super annoying. And so I need to build up like some resilience to feeling the need to urinate and just holding it and being okay with it. But as I was traveling home, it was like a 90-minute travel on the tube. And I was like, that's 90 minutes I cannot pee. And I couldn't find a bathroom. I'm in the mode of calling bathrooms restrooms now as well, because they don't know what a bathroom is. Restroom. Ahead of time. So I had to like literally... There was like 20 minutes left of the journey, but I was like, I have to get off here. And I went like launch myself with my flipping suitcase up out of the station, turned the corner and just peed next to like a bin. I was just like that desperate. It was horrendous. And I was like, man, this is a low. But anyway, besides the point, a stressful week, that depletion week, partly because me and Cliff had pushed hard for the last pounds to come off. And we're also trying to meet a weight cap of which we didn't know what it was. So we're just trying to bring my weight down as much as possible. So anyway, went through all the travel and everything. Obviously had my beef taken away, wasn't the end of the world. And then on Friday, which was the last day of depletion, I had weigh-in, polygraph, all that shit. And man, I could not believe that I was basically 160 pounds on weighing in. For me, to get down to 160 pounds is just like, that feels just like a weight I should not see on my physique. And it's funny because you commented on the photos from, I think that were taken that morning. And you're like, I've never seen you this flat and depleted. Yeah. I looked, it was a bad look on my physique.
Extremely stringy. There's no other way in saying this. And
so I was getting concerned with how I was looking even the weeks leading into that depletion, but we made the bet that was going to make me the most competitive was not to eat me up into the show, but to make sure I was going to be in a heavier person in a lighter weight category. As it turned out, because for the pro classes, they didn't have preset weight categories, I probably would have made weight without having to deplete, which was quite gut-wrenching, but it is what it is. I actually managed to put on 6 pounds overnight, which was basically 6 pounds of lean tissue, visibly, because I didn't hold on. I wasn't holding on to any like subcutaneous water. I was very tight the next day. So we went through the rapid backload, of course. And it's funny, every rapid backload I've done with Cliff, he's had to give me more food. I don't know how many grams of carbohydrates I specifically came to, but it was almost like 1,200. So quite a lot of carbohydrates. And actually, he bumped my fats up quite a lot too, which I presume is because I was just running through carbohydrates and I wasn't holding on to the glycogen as he would hope. And I think that's just a lesson that I've known from previous preps too, is when you start feeding my physique, it just absorbs it. And I could see that through my post-show phase 2, where there was some photos I took. I think it was the first day of training, or no, the second day of training in New York, which is 3 days post-show. And me and Mike were just like, what the fuck? Like I was posing under some of the lighting in the gym. I think it was called Mid-City Gym. And my physique had like come back to life. So I know that on show day, me and Cliff knew this by depleting into it, that we were kind of probably going to be a bit on the flatter side versus fuller. And I don't think that played in my favor on the day, but we didn't know that. Like I said, we didn't know the weight cap. It was like 167 was like the high end, and the low end was like 162 or something. So, oh no, it must have been below once. It was like below 160. It was like 157, sorry, to like 167, something like that. It was 10 pound kind of range. So I was like dead center. But yeah, so I wasn't one of the bigger individuals on stage, which if anyone tuned into the live stream, you would have seen there were some big dudes comparatively to me in my weight class, which was like lightweights 1, I think it was called, or lightweights 2, I can't remember. So yeah, that didn't really play in my favor. And so where am I? So I'm loading glycogen, pushed more carbohydrates, more fats to try and fill me out. knowingly that I was always going to be slightly on the flat side. Then the next day, again, Cliff pushed a bit more food into me that morning, more fats as well, to kind of hold on to the look. And it was definitely a very peeled look. I don't know if you saw the story that Cliff shared of my back double bicep, where it was like my rear double bicep, and it wasn't on stage. It was in the bathroom, basically lighting.
Could be.
But it was the most conditioned you'd probably ever see my glutes.
It was also
back.
from the rear, right? Where
Yes.
then the lines came finally in and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I think it was just the lighting allowed the lines to show, because I think some lighting just doesn't pick up that detail.
100%.
And at least for my glutes. But I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'm shredded, but it's still not popping. My physique isn't alive. It looks a bit dead. So anyway, then I still think I presented a good package on stage, but I haven't got great photos or videos just yet. And that's partly because when I was on stage, there was 16 of us in our weight category, the biggest class for the pros. There's a lot of people to have on stage on one time, and they brought us all out and they like curved us round the stage. And I was the second to last person on the outside. And the lighting for the stage, and many people have said this, and I knew this having looked at the stage beforehand, the lighting wasn't good. The stage it's just not great stage lighting, unfortunately. Seattle the year before, amazing stage lighting. This just wasn't great. And people were saying it was playing more to the strength of silhouettes and size and shape over condition, because it just wasn't able to highlight condition. And we'd gone in with condition was my card that I was dealt with, that was going to be my strong suit. And I was on the outside. Now, I believe out of like the 5 or 6 people they called out to the first call out, the majority of them, bar one person, I think, were from the dead center that got called out in the first place. So the people who were on the fringes initially got left to the sides. So it's like, it kind of felt like you were at a disadvantage being on the sides anyway, because the lighting was even poorer there, and they just kept those people there anyway. So I never got anywhere near the center, and I don't feel like I ever saw the best lighting, and I just never got any comparisons to some of the better individuals. So it's nice when you feel during a stage outing, you get to like fight for your placing, but I just never felt like I was even looked at in a way to fight for it. Now, I'm by no means thinking I'm a full first call out pro worthy, and I would have placed top 5, but it would have allowed me to climb the ranks a little bit, maybe within the placings. I haven't got my placing yet. People have been asking. I don't know, but I would probably predict I'm either like anywhere from like 13th to 16th in my class. I could come dead last. I saw the outsides and I never saw any placements further in. So I could be dead last, but I could be fighting for placings within the final few. I know from speaking to one judge, I don't know if I can say who, so I'll just keep it to myself, that they didn't have me dead last, which is nice. It confirms that at least some judges didn't have me dead last. And I'll be interested to see where I was. But yeah, I just never saw the good lighting. The best lighting apparently was during the pose down, like when you came right to the front of the stage. And I hate the pose down. I just like stay back. So I barely got into it. And I think that's why I haven't got really any good stage shots. I paid for like the photo package that they provide through Better Aesthetics, which, yeah, see what they get of me. And I also paid for a like private photographer on the day who sent me through a few, which I've put up. But again, he hasn't got that many yet. So we'll see what comes through. But yeah, I had Andrew, my client, he took some video footage and things, and Sarah, who was the UK kind of representative through the WNBF, she took a few, but they're just not, I don't think they're not I want to see what the professional ones look like comparatively, and so I can kind of share what I think was the best look for myself. But Cliff was really happy with the look and what we brought to stage, and was happy with how I presented myself. But yeah, you know, I just felt, I think any competitors who feel like they didn't really get a good look in and didn't really get to like fight on stage and get challenged and didn't get moved around much, so you didn't really feel like you were compared much, it just, you can't help but come off feeling a bit deflated from that. The really cool thing is, Pascal, the Swiss show, just to put into perspective of how competitive that was. So Babacar obviously was at the Swiss show. He went and won WNBF Worlds. Second place at the Swiss show, Ramon, he came third in the heavyweights, and he had awful time with travel cancellations. So who knows if his physique was at its best at that. I think he did tremendous, but he came third in the heavyweights. Then the guy that came third at the Swiss show I think he came third in the lightweight, so the category below me. And then the guy that came fourth, I believe, came fifth in the lightweight class there. So anyway, basically everyone at the Swiss show who I was up against weeks prior for my pro debut were like top 5 placings at WNBF Worlds, apart from, I think his name is Nicolo from, I think, Italy, as well as Babacar from Italy. I believe he is. Really nice guy.
Isn't Babacar from Spain?
No, he's Italy.
Oh, all right.
I always think he's France for some reason. I don't know why. It's like the name, I think he's French. But
you're thinking France, I'm thinking Spain.
He's Italian.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain he's Italian now. And such a nice guy, by the way. His English isn't amazing, but just through our interactions, like he's just like, give me a fist pump. Like we talk a bit on Instagram here or there, just a little bit. So anyway, and just a mind-blowing physique, because his weight class, the middleweights, was unreal. The Natty Professor, I can't remember what his name is on Instagram. Jesus, his arms, they're like the size of my flies. Like, gee, they're just unbelievable. But so yeah, the Swiss show basically was just of an unreal caliber of individual, because they came and just took so many placings at Worlds, kind of like the UK competitors, especially in the amateurs, because we have so like many competitive amateurs as well going to Worlds as amateurs. Like so many of them take placings in top spots because it's just such a competitive scene. So that was very confirming of like, hey, you came 7th last at that Swiss show, but like it was a very high caliber lineup. I'll be interested to know if I managed to edge Nicolo at the in our class, because I was up against him again. I have no idea. He was not in first call out, so I know we were somewhat close again. So yeah, that's kind of how that went. Again, like I said, I feel a bit disappointed and deflated, similar to the Swiss show, but it might be similar to the Swiss show where I look back in reflection and be like, the caliber of athlete, it's Worlds, so it's the best of the best. And also looking at the photos, I hopefully can reflect upon those and be like, hey, that was a really good physique that you brought to stage. And yeah, I obviously feel a bit deflated because similar to the Swiss show, I didn't really get moved up against and compared against some people as much as I would like. And yeah, it's Bob, who runs the WNBF, Bob Bell, who I respect highly and I think is awesome. He was head judging both the Swiss,
which is an amazing
Worlds.
name, by the way, as well.
Yeah, it is a great name. And yeah, he was head judging both of those. So it kind of reflects it in how I was moved around, because head judges always have their way of head judging. And so maybe if it was a different head judge and they, I don't know, like to mix it up a bit more, and I don't know, they like my look a little bit more than Bob liked my look, maybe I'd have seen a bit more there. But hey, you know, like I said, these are marginal things, different lighting, different stage, different head judge, different judging panel. It's all subjective. I still would have placed in second call outs. I wouldn't have been top 5, and I wouldn't have expected it. I look at my season, it's very similar in many ways to like Eric Helms's season, because he obviously turned pro, went to Worlds, didn't get that top 5 placing, and now he's in his off season hoping to challenge for a top 5 placing next time he goes to Worlds as a pro. And that's kind of the mindset I've got with it too. So I've rambled a lot there. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to question or...
Yeah, no, I have a lot of thoughts, and basically 3 things that I want to further delve into. And that is first and foremost in regards to the lighting, which I'm sorry to hear that the lighting wasn't great, because when there's one thing that is very important in videography or also photography, it's not the camera per se or the skills of the photographer or the videographer. A lot has to do with lighting. If you take a look at movies, for example, we are talking about cinematography. And cinematography is most of the time dictated by lighting. And light plays such an integral role. And I don't even think that it's intentional from the organizers that they are putting up bad lighting, or that sometimes an event location has good lighting. I think it's more by either accident or someone who's very much lighting engineer or technician or so, who has very much full understanding and control of things. But it is, of course, an additional cost that they have to then consider. And also, secondly, if it's not coming along with the venue itself, you need to take care of it. And most of the time, people simply don't know. They have no understanding of light. And light, I would love it if most bodybuilding organizers would think and consider...
I'm just going to pee quickly.
Yeah,
sorry, Pascal.
think and consider more about the lighting in itself, because once again, light plays such an integral role in the way that we perceive things, in the mood that is being reflected, in the action, the entertainment, all that kind of good stuff. And I think that, especially also for the bodybuilding show, where appearance is one, if not the most important variable in order to not only present the athletes well, but also then have a good time for the audience, and also have a better understanding of physique for then the judges. I think that lighting should be on top of the list when it comes to taking care of the organization of the show itself. It should be up there alongside with, I don't know, handling the athletes and also judging.
I just have 2 points because you said it really well. I agree. Lighting is like one of the number one most important things with the venue, I think. One is in the UK, we have Fivos, who is an incredible photographer, and he knows lighting. And I think he really helps the UK stage nail their lighting, because the Supernaturals, even the first one, the lighting was great. It's spot on. So I think having a photographer, like you said, or someone who knows that sort of thing, like if a photographer's like, yeah, this is great lighting, like you can be pretty sure you're going to be able to capture the physiques well, especially if they're a photographer who is also like a bodybuilder, like Fivos was, like he knows. And second, second was Cliff said that, I think he said that the NPC literally take their lighting with them because of how important a variable it is. So they standardize it. So every show, you know, you're going to be under this lighting, which I think is such a key thing to have standardized, because like I said, if you're under different lights, it could favor certain people or physiques, and it makes it harder for the judging panel as well, because they're looking at the physiques and like, oh, that maybe it's not reflecting kind of what it would if it was under different conditions. I don't know. It's like they can't see it properly. So yeah, the lighting, unfortunate, it was not up to scratch. And again, I think they have had that fed back to them that the lighting could be improved.
See the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. Additionally, you get access to our exclusive Revive Stronger member site, where you'll be able to watch over hundreds of hours worth of educational content. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
One additional thing is, if some organizers are listening to the Improvement Season podcast, which I highly doubt though, but if they are listening and think, no, it's too much of a hassle to take care of that, or the benefit is not outweighing the additional work that I need to put forth, think about it this way. It's also a promotional tool. If your show has those amazing pictures or those amazing videos that you then can sometimes see at the, for example, wnbf show or the Evo Classic, they are freaking amazing shots. And why? Because the lighting plays an integral role here, right? And those pictures are being shared around, which then eventually comes back to your show that people want to or are more likely to consider partaking in your show itself. So in itself, if you really think about it from a marketing and also financial perspective, you would be better off investing a little bit more in standardizing maybe, or getting a professional, a lighting guy to take care of that aspect. While it is an initial investment, it will pay off like later down the line. And I'm very certain about this. This is not even up for debate.
Yeah. It's, I completely agree. It's like investing in like a really good photographer or something who then can like do the best work there. And what I will say with that venue, I really liked the actual the seating area for people who are watching it, because the seats were super comfortable. It was super relaxed. It was like, it is really nice from that perspective. And also I will say I really enjoyed like some of the backstage staff they had. I thought were kind of really great and very helpful. The tanning, not so much. That was it felt quite disorganized because I was told by my tanning, like they were kind of rushing us through, and I kind of felt they seemed stressed about getting everyone done. And I was like, oh, like, okay, I didn't realize I was that close to stage. And so much so they did my tan and glaze all in one. And I was like, oh, like, am I on stage like soon? Because I didn't predict that I would be. And she was like, yeah, they're going to be on 15, 20 minutes. So I started doing all my like pre-stage pump up stuff. And then little did I know I wouldn't be on stage. It was way over an hour later that I was on stage. It was just like, shows, I understand these things happen, but that communication wasn't great. I think that's more of a lesson for me not to necessarily take the word of one of the tanning kind of individuals, but still that felt a bit off in terms of communication. That wasn't great for me. But again, it's one of those minor things that you just know show days never run exactly how you expect them to. So that happened. Yeah, I don't think there was anything else particularly to say about show day apart from I actually preferred the venue for Vegas because it was just way more spacious. So that inevitably makes it feel less stressful, and it felt a bit better in terms of organization from my memory as well. Like the communication was a bit clearer. The tanning area was like way better managed. Like I didn't have a time for my tan on show day. Like I had my first coat the day before, fine. But show day tan, it was like come. It wasn't like come whenever, but it was like, hey, we're going to tan the first categories first and then you'll come on later. But there's just no time, and it would have been nice to have that. And you had to just kept going and asking like, oh, am I due yet? And they're like, no, you're not due yet. And then you had to go back and am I due yet? And then it's like, yeah, you're due. And it's like, you could be out, you don't know. It's like they needed some sort of teleprompter up being like, yeah, now this category come, now this category come. Otherwise you just had to keep going and checking. So that was, yeah, it didn't feel quite as smooth.
Yeah. On that note, though, just to be fair and give the organizers also a little bit of benefit of a doubt here, I think first and foremost, it's not easy to organize such a huge event. Secondary, it's especially not easy if you are switching around venues each and every single year, and you don't have that also here standardized venue that and that is always kind of the same. You always have to adapt then to the new venue. And I think this makes it much, much harder to organize and make it run smoothly, and also keep all of those different variables in check. So it's easy, of course, to be an athlete and just see what it is that you're experiencing, and may then have some kind of hurdles or some things that you think could be run better. But as an organizer, I think there will always be something that is hard to manage and hard to predict, especially if it's not your own location. and you are basically also organizing it on the go. It's not that you have like weeks in order to to prepare or set things up and test things out. It's not like a huge concert, for example, that has now, I don't know, Taylor Swift with it. And then there are thousands of people making sure that the entire show is running smoothly. And I found it fair to bring that up as well, because I think it can be easily forgotten, such a fact.
Yeah, I think they have been using this venue for like 10 years.
Oh, really?
So it's definitely not a new venue that they have no experience with, but they do switch venues year to year. Yeah. So I do think there's that challenge. And what was I going to say? I know at the Swiss show, they get that venue like a week ahead of time. That doesn't normally happen because it costs a lot to like hire venues for that much time. So at the Swiss show, it was like they'd prepared so many things. Like in the toilets, they'd like taped everything, like all the taps and everything, so there was no tan that would go on it. Like little details like that. So that was like, I don't know. I think the Swiss are known for like being on it with this sort of thing. But that made that venue super kind of well prepared for people, and you could tell it just ran super smoothly. But again, they do that venue. They've had that venue for years, and they do it every single year at that venue. So definitely makes that easier for them. And yeah, when it's a world's event, there's so many people. That's why Vegas was perfect, because everything could be in that one like casino. But yeah, you can't have that. You have like a host hotel, you have the venue, you have tanning here, tanning there, and like polygraphs, and you know, there's so many things to have to manage and organize. So yeah, it was a whirlwind and an awesome weekend. And I'm just looking, and I met so many people. I had some clients there. So I met my client Jake, who I've been working with for years. I met Eric, who you just commented on, his physique update that I posted just now on my
He's
feed.
looking amazing, man.
Yeah, he's going to do some damage for sure. Yeah. And yeah, I met Eric, and also Darkim came as well. So I met quite a few clients there, which was awesome. And then there's so many people who I've never met in real life, who I got to kind of meet or catch up with, who I'd seen at the 2021 Worlds. It was, yeah, incredible to meet all these individuals. Dan Cole spent quite a bit of time with, because he actually paid for our dinner, which was very kind of him. Have to give him a shout out for that, because, yeah, that's, I don't know, when people make gestures like that, it's super kind. Mm. And yeah, I got to spend a good amount of time with him, because, you know, from Natty News, he comments on our YouTube actually quite a lot, and I just appreciate him big time. He's a super nice guy. Yeah. So yeah, to hang out with these individuals for good quality time, it just makes me want to be like, have that more often, that experience more often. It makes Worlds just worth it. Even I think for like Mike Chalice, just to come and see the high caliber of athlete. Like I said, I think this Worlds was crazy competitive, but then also get to interact with, he'd never met people like Alberto Nunez, who we had dinner with, of course, Jeff Alberts. Like, he had never interacted with these people, so it was like, for him, it was like a bit of a starstruck. So that was amazing. But yeah, such a good time.
No, absolutely. Two additional things that I wanted to talk about there, Steve, and they are basically kind of intertwined. You having the feeling that you didn't really have the chance in presenting yourself and proving yourself to some extent. And then secondarily, the disappointing sensation that you've been experiencing ever since the Swiss show. These are two kind of intertwining things. And first and foremost, just focusing on the first one that I brought up, I think it's kind of the thing that you are experiencing in every aspect of life. I feel the same way. And I haven't been in that situation though, Steve, ever since I'm self-employed, so for a very long time. But I would feel the same way if I were to apply for a job. And I know that I'm qualified, maybe not from a skill perspective, because I think that technical skills you can always learn. But willingness to put in the work and effort, attention to detail, work ethic, and all those kind of things are things that you can't really learn most of the time. Either you have it in that moment or you don't, or you are developing it over a longer period of time. And this is something, those kind of skills are things that you have to prove to the other. Because if someone were to ask you, like, are you qualified for the job? taking a look at the paper, the paper may say certain things, but it tells you never really anything about how hard the person is working for something, how much they are willing to put forth, and how the ability to learn some new skills in the future, which are way more important. And I think I would feel the same way if I were to be declined and I know that I'm the perfect fit for the work, and all that I'm lacking is maybe the qualification on paper, but all the other necessities are in place. And for you to be there on stage and not even having the chance to show yourself, to at least have the feeling that you were able to prove yourself and also what it is that you've been working for, I can absolutely understand that there is a little bit of a dissatisfaction and disappointment involved in that.
And I think it's inevitable. Having judged, I know what it's like. You try and get your... so we judge 1 through 7 at the WNBF UK. So everyone after 6th place is just 7th by default. Here, though, they were placing everyone, so it's a little bit different, but still, you kind of get your... You want to get your 7s, to put it in the kindest way possible. It's really hard to put it in a kind way. You want to kind of get them out the way in a sense, so you can focus on placing the top 6, because that's going to need more attention. So the people who are nearing the bottom, they don't get that much of a look in, because you haven't got ages to judge. So it's really hard. I do think at the WNBF UK, though, we do a really good job of bringing out people and getting them time on stage, which is the thing I would have liked a bit more of, is like time. I was probably stood at the back of the stage longer than I was at the front of the stage, just waiting to be looked at. So it's just a hard one of a competitor, and it's just something I'm going to have to deal with. Again, I'm not taking it, I'm not trying to discredit anyone or take it out on anyone. It's not a fun thing for a competitor to experience, is being stood at the back of the stage, being stood on the outsides of the stage. And
I think that it's absolutely valid to raise your disappointments or kind of concerns in that regard, and still appreciate that it is just the way that it was.
Yeah.
Right? You can still be dissatisfied with something and acknowledge that it is that way.
This was why when I judged, I mentioned it when we spoke about my experiences, it was very confronting, because I've been that person, and I am now that person as a pro who's had their pro debut and is of a lower standing compared to some of these other pros. And I'm back there, and it's a familiar, unpleasant feeling, and it'll just make me work harder to see if I can climb the ranks again. And I know what I need to do. It is, again, just those final touches in terms of, I say final touches. I need more muscle mass. It's as simple as that. I need more size to be as competitive as some of these individuals, and particularly a new area that I hadn't really identified that needs work is chest. I get very conditioned through my chest, and I think some people will be surprised to hear that that's a weak point, but especially when I get lean, because it gets lean so soon, it has the capacity to not be very full. And so to combat that, I need more size there. And it also, I'm not sure about glutes in terms of trying to bring out more, and I think we mentioned this on the podcast before, to bring out more of those lines and not have to dig as hard maybe, or to present them better. Maybe I need some direct glute work that I haven't had previously. So I did some hip thrusts yesterday, and I'm going to have chest as a bigger priority through my off season versus back, for example, which has always been a bigger priority for me to improve that width. I think I did a really good job of bringing up that width, and my front relaxed looks the best it's ever looked. And now to continue to improve that front relaxed, I need more of that top shelf, which was an important area for me, but I focus more on the side delts than anything, not so much on the chest. And I'm actually going to give a little bit more of love and attention to my anterior delts, because I've never really done that. And I do think sometimes the thing you haven't been doing is the thing you need to be doing. And overhead pressing, I think for a lot of people is something they don't need to worry too much about. But maybe for my physique, it is an area. And I'm actually very weak at overhead pressing. And that kind of maybe ties into it a little bit. So I'm going to put a bit more focus and attention to my anterior delts through overhead pressing as well. And just pressing in general, which I'm excited for. I'm very excited for.
No, I can definitely see that. No, that sounds like a good plan. And are you already mentally now in the off season, or do you think that it will take a longer period of time? Or was the week after the show enough to make that switch?
I think by the end of this week, I'll have made that switch, but pretty much made that switch already. It's actually interesting because I have data from last recovery phase and off season. So I know where my calories were and like where my steps were and everything like that. But obviously I was self-coaching, whereas now Cliff is doing my coaching. And he sent me through, we checked in yesterday and he sent me through my macros, and I was like, it was a bit of a stab to the gut actually in some ways, because I was like, oh, they're lower than I was expecting. And to put it into perspective, when I came back from Vegas last Worlds, I had myself on like 800 calories, and I ran those for a good like 2-3 weeks, and I reduced them slightly, and then my weight wasn't budging, and so I pushed them back up to that, and then I basically stayed there for my off season. Whereas this time round, Cliff has brought me down for 6 days of the week to 3,100, and 1 day a week to 3,500 calories. And so when I saw that, I was like, and I'm still thinking they're going to have to get pushed up. And he did say, if your weight starts falling, push those up. But it's just interesting because I've always been more of the person in a recovery phase to be a bit more assertive with food intake to really make sure someone's recovering ASAP. But I think Cliff is a bit more conservative. And I know I want to stay a bit leaner and not push my body weight quite as high, probably, and gain a bit more slowly this off season anyway. So I'm not too concerned about it. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, that's not that much food. So that was a bit of a gut punch. And it made me, so I think what that will do is force me to already feel like I'm just in a slow gaining phase to be at that intake. And in fact, I don't know if that will even be a surplus. It might not even be my maintenance. As I said, as you feed my physique up, my metabolism ramps up, and I can already feel the difference when I was post-show. And this also reflects how I was feeling about the peak. That rapid backload wasn't enough time to get my physique fresh. Dirt talked about this in his season where they dug really hard, and he didn't win I think it was called the Wahala show in Germany. James took that from him from the UK. But Dirt and Alberto have said we dug him into that, and so it wasn't his best representation of his physique. But then they started eating up after that into Worlds, so his physique was very fresh, very full. He was kind of in that perma-peaked state, and I could kind of see that after this show that I just did, where my physique looked better 3 days after, of not even like taking care of things, particularly in terms of fluids, sodium, food choices. It was all like I was eating out every single day, and I was eating like 3,600 calories, which in fact is very similar to where I get a linear load to be if I'm loading into a show. And I felt way better. My energy levels started picking up. The gym hub session that we did, which was day after the show, it wasn't a good session for me. I remember saying to Mike, like, I just don't have it in me. It's like I don't have it. I've got nothing left to be able to push and grind reps. I just didn't have it. Same when we went to Bev's gym, which is quite outside of New York. I didn't have a great session because I just didn't have like those like final grindy contractions and that kind of aggression. I didn't have it. But then
it feels like as if the muscles are empty. They don't really have the fuel.
And then,
exactly. And you can really feel the difference then deeper in the off season, that you sometimes approach the gym and you can smash things.
Yes.
And then in a cutting phase, even if you're trying to grind, right, intentionally trying to grind, it just doesn't move and doesn't budge. Yeah. And it doesn't feel that you are accumulating a pump either. It's just, you're hanging. I sometimes have it on the machine lateral raises. Get to that sticking point and it doesn't move anymore. In a gaining phase, you can grind through it and accumulate a little bit more of cell swelling. In a cutting phase, you get to that point, doesn't even feel productive anymore, and then you just have to stop.
Yeah. I don't know if that's something related to like having glycogen more like properly stored within muscles. In terms of, that's part of the why I like the linear load, is you have days to really make sure your muscles are full of glycogen. It was probably part that, part recovery, but by midweek I was like, man, I can push hard in the gym. And Mike was like, yeah, like I can visibly see it in you that you're actually able to perform harder and better, and you're looking better. And also when we're walking around New York, on the first day, I remember saying it to Mike, like, dude, I can't walk at your pace. Like, I got to walk slower. Like, this is hard. But by like day 3 in, he was like, I've never seen you walk so fast. Like, you are like walking around, you've got energy, like the steps are easy for you. And yeah, it's interesting experiencing that. And so I'm definitely already feeling quite a lot better, but I think also my body it does well with food and eating up. So yeah, my weight, I had a scale when I was out there because I bought like a portable scale. So I have seen it the first few days post show. I was maintaining weight, and then I checked in with Cliff, and he was like, okay, we're going to bump your food up, because he put me on 3,600 calories. He then moved me to 3,800. And I'd kind of been creeping up a little bit, somewhat maintaining. But then when I came home and weighed in yesterday, my weight was quite up. I hadn't moved up above 170 pounds. I was still below 170 pounds, which for me is like 170 pounds is still very light for me. Like when you think about the Netherlands show, my first show of the season, I was like 175 or something before that. So like I'm still incredibly lean at this weight. And I was like 172 or something, but flying, I had edema, like my fiber was like 70 grams yesterday the day before yesterday, because I was just like, back to home food. And so I could just focus on like whole foods and filling myself up and not eating just like bagels and some pizza. And that was like calorie dense food that didn't have much fiber and that sort of thing. So I knew my weight was elevated. So it's already come down today to like 170. I imagine it's going to come down tomorrow. And I think I will predict to check in with Cliff and he'll bump my food up. That's the way I see it will probably go, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sounds like a trip, mate. And now it's the new chapter once again, right? Building for the next time is then going to take place in a couple of years.
Yes. Yeah. People have asked when I'm going to get back on stage, and the soonest will be 2027.
Yeah.
I'm relatively set on that year actually, because I know a number of people that are competing that year. For Mike Chalice will probably be taking that year. I think Dan Cole is set on that year. There's just a number of people I know who are looking at 2027, which makes it kind of enticing to me. And I think that's a good amount of time to have made some proper improvements, but also like I'm eager to, again, like get in there as a pro, Yeah. Like I was coming near the bottom and I want to push for like near mid and placings, and I want to do some more pro shows. So I'm kind of eager to get back in there and do that. But I know I need to come back with a better improved physique, but also having learned what we've learned from like pushing to try and get the glutes in, and maybe hitting a bit of a fat loss ceiling, as it were, where the trade-off between fat loss and muscle loss just starts to become not worth it. And those thoughts and reflections, I'm excited to kind of take that new knowledge into the rest of the season as well. So it's exciting. But man, I could speak about New York a lot because we did so much. I don't know if you kept up to date with my stories, but
I've seen a couple of things, and I think that this is something that we need to say for the next time. It's kind of part 2 of kind of your US trip, where you're then talking about maybe the post-show period, what it is that you guys went through, nutritionally speaking, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it might be worth getting Mike on as well to talk about it a bit, see because he was, even actually just hearing about his experience, we've spent quite a lot of time together now, and I've taken a little bit of a mentorship role to him as just a human more than just a client. He's a client, a colleague, and a friend. And so past just our training and nutrition stuff, which I'm definitely, I learned some stuff about him. When you get to spend a lot of time with someone, especially training, you really get to assess their training. And so like, for example, some things that with him, he was letting his technique get too loose. He was thinking about really taking a muscle to failure, but more so taking an exercise to failure. And so he was letting his technique get too loose. His concentrics, as you know, he can really grind. Actually, when you get him to have explosive, aggressive concentrics, he can't. He's just like you and me. So that was a really good lesson where now he doesn't have that crazy grindability. He has to stay switched on and aggressive from the start of the set. But even with food, we did a food tour and he was like, that's the most like variance in food he's had in like years. Like having arancini, having falafel, pizza, cupcakes. Like he hadn't had that variety of food. It's like, there's so much of life like and variance to be had for him. So yeah, I'm excited to actually get him on and talk about some of his experiences there and what he's learned. And yeah, growing as a complete human in many ways, which is, it's been awesome to see. And yeah, I appreciate him big time being there, not just for the stage, but then getting to explore New York together was, yeah, incredible. So yeah, we'll do another pod on that. I guess.
That sounds lovely. Absolutely.
We got 5 minutes, Pascal. Is there anything you want to update us on? I feel bad I took the whole episode.
No, don't feel bad. I mean, there has been much more happening on your end, which is interesting and relevant for the listeners than there was on my end. No, not really. The only thing that I can think of is that spontaneously I've made arrangements for next year to get my front side of my body completely covered now.
Wow. It doesn't surprise me, but fucking hell. Wait, yeah. Okay. So for context, you already have one side of your chest done?
No, nothing.
You have nothing on your chest. For some reason I thought you had a chest. No, it's okay. Ribs, you have one side of your ribs done, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's basically it on your torso, though.
Exactly. So,
on the front side of your torso.
Yeah, and then all the way, of course, to the neck. And
I was going to say,
also armpits as well. And
Jesus, Pascal.
Yeah, completely covered. Man, I'm not looking forward to that. I am not looking forward to that with the armpits. And just in general, the pain because there are so many spots that are uncomfortable, like chest nipples, for example.
Basically all of it.
Yeah. And having then so many sessions back to back, getting the entire front side covered. But the thing is, it's also a mental thing once again, Steve, and we've talked about it in the past, right? I think that if you can manage to make it through, I would assume that mentally you are coming out of it stronger, that you can endure something like this. And also, secondary, it's more of a thing, you do it once and then you have it. You know, you don't need to do it another time. That's the way that I'm thinking about it.
What's the artwork? I'd love to know.
I don't know if I should actually spoil this. So it's from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's going to be.
All of it?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And I wanted it to be Toji at first because I find him to be such an amazing character. But Dave and we couldn't really figure out how to do that. So we went for a different thing. And it's going to be actually quite amazing, I think. I'm quite confident that it's going to be amazing. And this in combination with then my back from Attack on Titan is going to be a crazy, crazy upper body. And this is going to happen starting in May and then up until July. So 9 sessions in 2 months.
That's going to be so intense.
It is. Every second week, there are kind of two-day sessions going to happen. It's going to be very intense.
Yeah, I wouldn't choose to do that.
And I'm not really looking forward to the pain, but at the same time, it's kind of, I don't know. I will make it through. I made it through with my back as well, and especially in a case like this, it's kind of YOLO, you know. Like honestly, this is what I'm thinking about, right? Because the older I get, the more I'm also thinking about the potential consequences, health consequences that tattooing may have on you, of course, right? Because I want to live for as long as possible, but I can't live. This
without a full suit.
Yeah, but I can't live in a way where I'm hesitant of taking any kind of risks in life. Right?
No, yeah, you got to take some, right?
Totally. It's kind of the same when it comes to, I don't know, if people are taking any kind of substances, like let's say steroids, let's take drugs, let's take alcohol or so. Of course, you can live your life in the cleanest and most responsible way possible, but that doesn't guarantee that you are staying healthy, that you're not contracting any kind of diseases, or that you're living a long and healthy life.
This is me with flying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like flying at all, but
yeah,
I'm so glad that I have flown so many times this year. All I will say is, though, the flight back was amazing.
Oh, really?
If every flight could be like that, I think it's the weather makes such a difference. Clear blue skies, like not like loads of clouds and rain and stormy conditions. It was just like basically just completely smooth the entire way. Man, that was such a beautiful flight.
Yeah.
But it's doing all of that travel this year. It's like some of the most travel I've ever done has made me really want to do more trips with Charlotte. Yeah. And like you said, you only live once. Like, you got to do these things.
And this sounds, of course, idiotic coming from two guys in their mid-30s or so, but some people will never get there. Appreciating and also acknowledging that life is finite, or your time, at least on Earth. And the sooner you realize this, the better it is, in my personal opinion. And at the same time, then you then start to more so commit to things that you really want to do. And something like this, I always wanted to have my neck tattooed, you know. And if I then if I'm finally able to do this, even if it comes with certain risks, then I'm more than willing to take this. Especially when it's not an acute risk that I'm passing away tomorrow, for example, you know.
It's also unknown, right? And in some ways,
exactly.
Anecdotally, you don't hear of people who have tattoos who have all these issues. Like, it's not something I know of. Like, oh, by the way, when you I just haven't heard that. So it's
maybe because this is survivorship bias, Steve. Because you've only seen the planes who came back to the base, right? Instead of those who were being shot down.
This is what I always reflect on when I'm on flights. Is I look at the like the air hostess and stuff, and I'm like, man, they go on so many flights every single like day, even, and they're still here, they're fine. Steve, you're going to be okay. That's what I always think of. So,
yeah, and that's the only thing that is actually then going to take place. Everything else is, well, kind of something that is more exciting that is then going to be going down next year. That is in the pipeline.
That might convince me to actually get a hair transplant. One of the big reasons I don't want to, I'm not even joking. I'm seriously contemplating it.
I mean, in that regard, kind of like I'm talking about tattoos, but yeah, it's kind of like a procedure, you know? So
yeah, because it's going to take you out of the gym for an extended time, all of that. And that's a big thing that puts me off the hair transplant is it's not just like 2 weeks off the gym. It's like quite a long time off.
Mate, I can feel you on this one because it was even already annoying when I got my back tattoo done.
Yeah.
It wasn't really the healing process in itself. It was the part that I couldn't really go to the gym on a regular basis without taking care of that because it's such a huge area. Yeah. And it's kind of the same here as well. I would have loved if there was always kind of 5 weeks in between so that I can somewhat time it with a deload. But I can also absolutely understand that Dave didn't really want this either, because if you are doing a project like this, I think that he would love it to be over very quickly so that the colors all across the board still look relatively the same. And it's also a project, of course, that he wants to get finished and not just me. So yeah, I can definitely see when you are then out of the gym for like 4 weeks, I think it is, right?
I think it is something like that.
It's a long time.
So, yeah, it's kind of off-putting. I know I'm going to probably shave my head next year anyway and see how I feel about it. And then I'll go from there. But yeah, I'm just with the small tattoos for now. I have one booked in for next year.
I know, January.
It's already in the diary. That's just to finish off Aaron, and then I'll get the other calf done. But then I'm like, as a professional bodybuilder now, I have to really consider what areas are going to impact the physique to a point that it'll take away from stage. And one of the areas that I think is sick and wouldn't impact the stage is neck.
That's
all
true.
Around here.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
that is an area that a lot of people, my family in Charlotte, aren't keen on me getting done because it is very
And to be honest, I think it is also worth considering what it may have for potential consequences later down the line for you, right? Because that's definitely also what I've considered over the years. I could have easily gotten my neck tattooed when I was very young, right? With my first kind of tattoos. But I didn't because I never really knew what may happen in the future then. And because it's such a visible part and because it plays also a huge role in the way that other people may perceive you, something that you have to take into consideration. Even if you're a person like me who often says like, I don't give a fuck what other people think about me. If they are then putting you into a category where you don't belong or where you think you don't belong, it is your fault, basically, because you decided to get that tattoo. And when you are fully covered, believe me, many people will do this. And are you fine with that? It's something that has to be very much well thought through, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of, in a weird way, not to go on too much of a tangent, I know we've been over an hour. When you shave your head, you kind of do that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. You get put into a shaved head category, which...
Yeah, and think about this, Steve, right? When you have a shaved head and also a neck tattoo, you appear automatically more aggressive.
And I'm jacked, so...
Yeah, and I had it as well when I was shaving my head with then the mustache. I was looking actually quite intimidating.
With your motorbike.
Yeah, I was looking actually very intimidating. And this is something, especially when you have kids, for example, right? Do you really want to have this? It may seem like a no-brainer, just go ahead and do this, right? But I think that if you really think about it, do you want to be a intimidating person? Or do you want to be a welcoming person? And it's just how people are tuned. And it's definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration.
As an introvert, there's something appealing about being not very, what's it called? Yeah, being intimidating, and so people don't want to come up to you.
Yeah.
So at the same time, I kind of like it when people do. Yeah,
and so for me personally, it's one of those things. I see myself as an introvert. Well, I'm definitely an introvert, and when it comes to this, I don't care enough about other people. And I know this sounds very off, and in certain situations, I do care, of course, about people, right? But when I'm walking around, for example, or when people were to approach me, I don't care enough whether they are intimidated or not, right? What I care about are the people that are dear to me, how they perceive me. And sometimes it may be hindering in getting to know other people, but I'm at a point where I'm not even interested in getting to know other people. So, yeah. Maybe it's also a positive thing then, because it puts people off that you don't really want to get to know in the first place.
It also, for the tattoo, it will probably make you get to know other people that are tattooed, right?
That's true.
Get put into that box in a
sense. But even there,
so,
do you really want to get to know those type of people as well?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like the average tattooed person. Yeah. But anyway, right. Should we can talk about this another time.
Yeah, let's wrap it up and then get to part number 2 next week, I would say.
Yeah, guys, if you have any questions about prep, anything that I've discussed here, do comment below or send me or Pascal a DM. And if you aren't subscribed yet, subscribe, give us a like, thumbs up, give us a review over on Spotify. And yeah, it's been a while, so we'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The minicup movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The minicut movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.